intro music. So I suppose we better give people a clue what we're actually doing here. The first thing is we're kind of making it up as we go along. We're going to call this, I don't know, Chats
in Space. Isn't it? It's Chats in Space, isn't it?
Cats chat. I don't know. I thought it was going to be like Cat Podcast or something. I don't know. I can't remember.
Cat's Podcast.
The Cat Chat.
The Cat Podcast.
Well, we're out of the starting blocks. We're flying, aren't we?
Yeah, we've got all the names. None of them the right ones.
It's probably worth telling anybody who's tuned in for this. Do you tune in anymore? You don't actually tune in, do you? There's no such thing as
you
tune
just
in.
click play, don't you?
Yeah, I think you do something like that. The reason why this came about is that we were out on tour doing the first part of the Kickstart the Sun tour. Basically, we're travelling between gigs, and sometimes people would sit in vehicles together, and you'd be in my car or somebody would be in the bus, whatever, and there'd be a conversation that went on, and it would just be absolutely fantastic. Loads of stories, loads of things. Don't know how it started. Don't know how. The only reason it ended is because you got to the gig or whatever. And the sort of
or the Tesla charging point because your car's going flat.
Yeah.
Did I mention I have a Tesla?
You did once or twice.
What year were you in? 2023, and the car runs out of battery.
Yeah.
You'd expect that from the 50s or 40s, wouldn't you?
Mattel.
Yeah. You've got a big key that you wind the fucking thing back up. See how far you get.
Palitoy.
Thanks for popping round, guys. It's been great. Thanks. I guess we're gonna have to kick something off with a question, really, just to see if this is a dog that's good at hunt. And there was one question that I always wanted to ask Deano. That is, Deano has been on Top of the Pops numerous times, and what I've always wondered is, who introduced you, and are they in jail?
Well, I'll tell you what. One of the first shows we did do was No Limits. Oh, what's his face?
Yeah.
Oh, Jonathan King.
Jonathan King.
And Jenny Powell.
He's in jail.
Jenny Powell. Yeah, well, he went to jail. He was round the corner at Belmarsh.
Yeah, he's in Belmarsh. Yeah.
And he always reckons he was the one that he was the one that discovered us.
Oh, he's
no, you didn't. It was number 4 Billboard in America before we came back and done your TV show. So there's that one. Who else? Dave Lee Travers. Done the Top of the Pops.
The big hairy cornflake.
I'm bonkers, me. I'm mad. No, you ain't. You're a no, the funniest man on radio. Yeah, we'll just do a little bleep on that. I don't care. I didn't like the geezer anyway.
The whole idea of it is that you're supposed to wait for somebody else to tell you whether or not you're bonkers, mad, interesting, anything like that. You're not supposed to actually tell everybody. Yeah. It's a bit like when you get a hotel and it says Comfort Hotel. It's like, I think I'll be the judge of that.
Yeah,
thank you very much.
It's not comfortable yet, mate.
Yeah. There were some great, nice, lovely DJs. Gary Davis, he was a really nice bloke. Peter Powell.
You generally turn on the telly now to watch Netflix or something like that. But occasionally, like the telly's, the tuner's on or whatever, and you think, oh, it's Top of the Pops or something like that. You do look back at it and you think, it's funny how over time it's become a really sort of nostalgic, glamorous thing. Everyone's like, oh, Top of the Pops. But in many ways, it was a bit pants as well. It was great, but not great at the same time. Because, like, if your favourite bands, we always used to complain that our favourite bands weren't on it. And then when they went on it, you went,
yeah,
look a bit weird on that.
Shouldn't have done it.
Like AC/DC being a prime example. I mean, AC/DC
Rock and Roll
like,
Damnation.
Yeah, it's like, wouldn't it be great if AC/DC were on Top of the Pops? So then they were on it, and you went, it just looks weird. That does.
And the edit was terrible as well. Yeah. But in the early 70s, what they had to do to get around obviously all the legal stuff of recording and that, they had to re-record with the BBC Orchestra on the Wednesday, didn't they?
Yeah, yeah.
So you go in. What's the one that was on there a while ago?
Is that right? Explain that to me.
Well, they weren't allowed to use the track.
Union
rules were, if you're coming on Top of the Pops, you weren't allowed to use the music from your recording. It had to be redone by the BBC Orchestra, and it was normally really pants, played by people that are just not in that game. So if you imagine, say, Bidoo Orchestra or Barry White Orchestra, these are seriously big, powerful orchestras.
Yeah. And
then you've got Dave Wiggins, who's been on the piss since lunchtime, and a couple of birds going, whoa, trying to reenact a full orchestra. And there's something I saw, because back in the day when you were a kid, you just think, oh yeah, it's great, it's Leo Sayer. But when you listen back now, Jesus Christ, they were singing along to like some really bad orchestration with The blokes.
They didn't really have to do that when, like in the 80s, when Chappelle was doing it.
I think they changed it, didn't they?
Yeah, because they realised it was a load of crap.
Yeah.
But I remember once, the first Top of the Pops, because I didn't play on the first album, when we started doing Heart and Soul, I had to pretend and say my name was Taj Wikowski.
Oh, you wouldn't be able to do it.
Yeah, because if they found out Dean Howard, well, you didn't play on the records.
Yeah,
So they came up to me, like Jenny, the tour manager and the manager, went, when you go up to the door and as you go into the studio, they'd have a list. Some do-good, some jobs worth on the door. They went, you've got to say you're Taj Wikowski. I went, what? I can't even spell it. What if they asked me, oh, how'd you spell that? I don't know, it's not me.
It's a fair cop, Gov. Yeah, it's not me. That's because you're taking the part of someone that could act out for them out of the MU, I suppose.
Yeah, it's all MU, strict as hell. I tell you, and when you do all them BBC programmes, if a bit of lighting needed changing or a bit of scenery or whatever, oh no, I can't do that. The lighting guys have got to go down and they've got on a tea break. Well, can't you just move it yourself? No, I can't do that. Can't move that box from there to there. No, the box man has to come and move that.
Taking his job.
Ridiculous rules. I did just a couple of things for a Belinda Carlisle. And one of the jobs were, we had to do, I think it was Wogan, Top of the Pops, and another TV show, one of the morning ones. And the first thing I'd done though was a 30,000 capacity mime up in Birmingham, open air in this square. It was like a Radio 1 road show.
Yeah.
And we played 2 songs, but miming. And she had all like these British guys, because her Virgin wouldn't pay for a band to come over and mime. So we did that, that's fine. And then we got the TV shows. It was a week's work, all done all within the week while she was in the country. So me and the other musician guys, we had to go to this studio and we was told we're going to have to re-record Ooh Baby, what's it worth?
No,
Heaven is a place on earth.
Heaven is a place on earth, and one of her other hits. So I'm sitting in there, I'm like, we've only got a morning to reproduce her record.
Jeez, really?
Anyway, I'm sitting there, I'm starting getting a bit panicky actually, thinking like, I've pretty much learnt the chords, but not to the point of let's re-record Heaven on Earth. Yeah. I'm sitting there, and the drummer, he's Ray Weston, he's thinking, oh, what's going to happen here? And then luckily, the girl from the record company came in, she went, don't worry guys, you ain't going to do it. She said she's not doing the TV shows unless we fly her band, her actual band over. So they went, you'll all get paid.
Yeah.
Pack up and go home. So we didn't do them anyway. But yeah, that was to do Wogan and Top of the Pops. We would have had to have re-recorded.
So we're just kind of looking back at the glory days of when you could get paid to not play. Now it's really hard to actually
decent
get
money. Yeah,
it's hard to get paid to actually play now. Yeah. So
well, remember those Made of Vow sessions you used to do for the BBC? We did one for the Friday Rock Show. And they said, right, you got 1 day to record 4 songs in a 24-track studio made of house. Like,
yeah, I've done it.
Okay, you can do that if it's really live. I think, okay. And then we mix it the following week, then it goes out on the Friday. And of course, back in the day, we had banks of backing vocals. Nothing changes. There's always walls of harmonies. And we thought, how we get? He said, well, no, you have to sing it. So we spent most of the day doing the 4 tracks with the drums and the guitars and that. It all sounded brilliant, but we knew that it was going to be really pony if we had one lead vocal and me and one other going when we've got like 120 on the album. So luckily we had Toby, old Toby Sadler, he was with us. He went, what's to stop me from just flying in the samples of the backing vocals as we do the tracks, as if we're doing it live anyway? We went, we're allowed to do it? He said, oh no, if you want to put some samples in. So we just flew them in off the keyboards, and all of a sudden, da-da, we got this massive, great big sound. And they actually said it's one of the best sessions they'd ever heard because all the backing vocals were in place.
Who was the engineer in them days?
Dave Dade. A guy called Dave Dade, big guy, Dave Dade. He did everybody from Tina Turner, Thin Lizzy, Queen.
Because we did a Made of Vow session, And we turned up, and it was the old drummer from Motley Hoople. Was he Puffin, Griffin, Diffin?
Oh,
His name,
yeah, Puffin Griffin. Peter Griffin. Peter Griffin, was it? Quagmire.
No, who was the guy, the drummer from? Oh,
I know you. Oh, I'm going to get killed for this because I should know.
yeah, he should do from the 70s. Come on, something from the 70s.
I know. And not only that, it's not the Hooples is terrible. I'm going to be.
Anyway, we
Sam
turned
Wood,
up-
if you watch this, mate, I know I'm dead. I know I'm dead.
We turned up, set up, and
Buffy?
Buffin.
Buffin. It's Buffin. Yeah, it's Buffin, I think. We'll go with Buffin.
His attitude.
Is that your
was-
last answer?
If you know
Do wanna
who
phone
it
a
was,
friend?
if you want to say it on the message us who the drummer is.
Yeah, that's the audience.
His first name was Dow, wasn't it?
Dow Griffin.
Something like that.
If you know the answer, message us.
Right.
Please. But anyway, God, this guy, his attitude absolutely stunk. He was vile. And we was like,
He's not having a good career here, is he?
what have we done wrong here? It's like he was fucking going mad about everything. Moaned about the drums, the guitars. And we're like, well, this is, our first Maid of Vale, wasn't it? When you was in a band in them days, if you got a Maid of Vale session.
In that studio.
Oh, we've arrived.
Hallowed ground, that was.
And I'll tell you what, he got the ump so bad after about an hour and a half, he just went, fuck it, I ain't doing it, and stormed out. And the engineer guy there, he went, God, we can do some work now. Come on, let's get on with it, boys. Sorry about that. Really? And I remember years later, I was having a conversation with Andy Bell from Erasure. And
As you do.
at the Palladium,
We played there.
with Dame Edna Everidge on the bill. That's a weird one, watching Dame Edna Everidge sound checking, but as Barry Humphries in his suit as a man, and he's, hello, my possums. It's like, oh, this is great. But,
Too much spliff, that is.
But Andy Bell, he was saying about, oh yeah, we did a Maid of Vale session. He said, God, that geezer, did you have him? We went, what, the bloke from Mott the Hoople? He went, yeah. He said, oh, he was an absolute pig to us. He was horrible. And I was like, oh,
Wow.
a man with a chip on his shoulder. Or both of them.
I don't think we had a guy called Dave Dade who did it all, and he mixed it the following week, and he was brilliant. I remember because Tommy Vance went, nice one, Mr. D.
Yeah, we didn't do the rock for the rock show. It was it came out on a Saturday afternoon, early evening. Whoever that guy was, Walker.
Johnny Walker.
Johnny,
maybe,
I think it might have been Johnny Walker.
Probably was Saturday afternoons then.
Early evening slot.
Yeah, it sounds like it was him.
I remember me and my mate sitting indoors like, oh, it's coming on. Oh, no, what a race. It was
cool.
the right early days of T'Pau.
Right.
They only literally had the one hit, Heart and Soul.
Wow.
Just a question, right? Because whenever you tell these tales, they're absolutely fabulous. But you were in what was effectively like although I know playing guitar is playing guitar, and T'Pau had a rock edge to it, but the culture around it was pop.
Yeah, totally.
And then you strapped on a guitar and stood with somebody else, i.e. Ian Gillan, and you're definitely in the rock world. So culturally, there must have been a huge slap in the face when you went from screaming kids on a Friday afternoon, like a Tuesday afternoon, 5 o'clock pop show, to hitting the road with the ex-singer of Deep Purple. I mean, that's a massive culture change.
Yeah, it was. But
Did you just crack on with it? You just get on with it?
Yeah, you just get on with it. I can play rock or I can play pop. I mean, the thing is, about what people didn't realise about T'Pau, they treated the record as a record. And if it went a bit dancey and a little bit electronic, that's the record. Live was a completely different kettle of fish.
As it should be.
It was a full-on rock band. Well, nothing else you can do. We was just like 6 guys, guitars. We didn't emulate.
No tracks back then.
No, we weren't doing none of that. And we did have quite a lot of rock guys come into the band that liked that side of it, but wouldn't have dreamt of. It was probably their wives dragging them along.
Yeah.
And they was like, oh, bloody hell, I didn't realise it was that rocky. And my mate, he came to see us at Wembley Arena, and he had to leave. He said, that is the loudest thing, because we had a sound guy, Steve Levitt. rather partial to the volume faders. And my mate, because we had all this sub bass underneath the stage, and he went, and he was down on the pit sort of thing in front. He went, that was just too loud for me. Even Andy Elphick said, like, Jesus Christ. He said, I've seen them all. He said, but none of them was as loud as that. So we was full on.
Uriah Heep level. Yeah.
Yeah,
But you know, you put a different head on with
Yeah.
Ian Gillan, and you know a lot of the songs anyway, because we did about 5 or 6 Purple songs.
Yeah.
And his other stuff. But the thing is, like, when I got the call for the gig, the guitar player that I replaced, Steve Morris, not Steve Morse, who was the Deep Purple guitar player, but Steve Morris, great player. He could go from here up to there in about 3 seconds and hit every single note in between. He's soloing, and when I got asked to do the gig, they played me the stuff, so like, you got to do this. I went, well, if you want me to emulate that, I can't play like that. They went, no, that's what we don't want you to do. We want you to do what you do. I was like, then we've got a gig.
Fantastic. The thing I was kind of alluding to there was, you know, I mean, just the stuff when you're not playing is the kind of thing. Because I mean, what sort of state was Gillan at that time? Was it still very high budget touring, or was he?
No, mate, no. In them days, 92. No, hang on.
Yeah, it's Grunge Central,
92.
wasn't it?
There was 8 of us, 4 in the band, 4 crew. I'd done 26 countries with him, and we flew everywhere. All on hired backline. I had 2 guitars. Bass player had 2 guitars. The drums brought his own snare, cymbals. We had a tour manager, drum tech, 1 guitar tech, and out front sound guy. And the 8 of us. And we just rocked up. I mean, I played on some horrendous amps. You know, you rock up into Thailand, you ain't going to get a Pucker Marshall amp. In fact, the best sound I ever had, because I ended up having, I bought a bunch of distortion pedals. We bought our own set of one of them hot rod tubes, wasn't it? That was all the rage back in the day.
Oh, yeah.
And then we used to turn up. There'd be like 3 stacks, double stacks, 3 or 4 heads, and I'm thinking, oh God, hark at that. Oh, so we ended up bringing our own set of valves and picked the best amp, to whip the valves out and put the hot rods in.
Really?
But the best sounding amp, I've mentioned Thailand, the only one that sounded half decent was a Marshall bass head, 4-channel bass head.
Oh, yeah.
That with, I think it was a Marshall GU'VNOR distortion pedal.
Well, the Governor's brilliant.
Wow, man, I want to buy that amp and take that home, but I didn't.
Yeah, that Governor pedal, I got the first one of them. I mean, they're worth a lot of money now. They're stunning.
Yeah, you've got one on your board, haven't you?
Board,
the GU'VNOR?
yeah. If in doubt, you just wind that round.
Yeah.
Gary Moore did, so the story goes, he did, I think he's still got the blues. I think pretty much all that album, there's a Governor pedal on the deck for that. Because I remember he said something in some interview, didn't he? The guys at Metallica were saying, how does you get, how Gary Moore get his sound? And he basically heard it and he went, ditch all that rubbish that you're playing, get a Les Paul and a Marshall and a Governor pedal, that's all you need.
Yeah.
And that's about the size of it. So they're wicked amps, they're wicked pedals, the Governors.
So getting back to your question, no, it wasn't big budget.
No.
I mean, we were playing big gigs, don't get me wrong. We'd done 2 gigs in Bulgaria, 2 football stadiums, just us, no support.
Wow.
The first one was 12,500 and the second one was just over 10,000. We'd rock up in, say, like Buenos Aires, 2 nights, 6,000 a night. And that was outside the hotel in the street, all through the night, massive crowd. Ian, oh, it's like, you look out the window. And then we'd all get in a van and rock up. Yeah, there were some great big gigs. And then we'd do Scandinavia and do like 300 people in a student bar. And that was the one time, like, I wanted Ian to throw his toys out the pram, say, I ain't fucking doing that. We went, no, it'd be great, come on lads. Oh, wig, blow it, this is horrible, it's a student bar. 350 people, I think, in there.
It's tempted to say, you know, what was it like working with him? But I have a story.
Oh my God!
I have an Ian Gillan story.
Not like you.
I know. But it's not of any sort of rock and roll fame kind of thing. I was in a band in the late 80s, early 90s, and Ian Gillan was doing his Garth Rocket.
Garth Rocket, yeah.
And he did the Newcastle Mayfair, and we got booked as local support. I think we did some other dates with him. I can't remember. It's all a bit vague, but we definitely did. That was our first gig, and it was our hometown gig. We got a phone call. It said, "Come down. You know, you're going to support Ian Gillan." We were like, "Oh my God, you know, hero or whatever." So we get down there and we tip up just like local bands. They're totally naive and stupid, and everybody's standing around. It's like, "What's up?" So, well, the truck's broken down. And the PA's on it, and they were touring with a full-on PA because Mayfair's not a small gig. This truck eventually turns up late, and of course, us being like sort of, I mean, the rest of the band were Geordies, I was a Manc living up there and whatever, we're all sort of northern kind of attitudes, like, right, just get stuck in, and we just get stuck in. Do you want a hand? Yeah. We lugged the whole of this, back in the day when PAs were like massive, there's no line arrays here, we get it all in, we literally, you know, hauling it on stage, you know, busting our guts, getting the thing up. We know the doors are going to open or whatever, and he's got to do sound check. He gets his sound check done, whatever. And then we get to the end of that, and we're all a bit battered. And we said, right, can we do our sound check now? He says, yeah. The sound engineer went. He said, I think it was the first date of his tour actually, so I think he might have not known the sound engineer either, as well as usual. I'm sure somebody's going to crop up from like Ian Gillan's band and tell me that I've changed this story a million times.
Comment
since the
in
80s.
the comments below.
Ian, if you're listening, just comment below. But basically, the way I remember it was, he turned around and he said, I ain't doing your band. And I went, why not? He said, because this is big rock and roll touring, guys. You know, you got to get your big boy pants on. You have your own engineer, or you give us X number of quid. And we were like,
that's the deal.
So we're
and half a pound of gack as well, don't forget.
So we're looking at our watch going, there's no chance. There's absolutely. And Ian was off out of earshot and like over at one side. He come over. He said, "What's the problem?" And he said, "These guys haven't got a sound engineer." And Ian just, the way I remember it, it is a long time ago. The way I remember it is he kind of looked at him and sort of went, "So these guys have just helped you load your PA off the truck, put it on the stage, plugged it all in with you, busted a gut, and you think you're not going to do their sound?" He says, "You're doing the sound." He says, "And it better be good." And then he invited us back after for the party afterwards, and we hung around with him. He just kind of sat in a chair in the corner with some beers and just chatted. Everybody moved around and had a great time. But I remember him as a really great guy. Really great guy.
Absolutely. I've worked with him a few times now, and I toured with him again in 2006, played with him in 2005. He's just a great bloke. Great bloke.
He borrowed our ironing board, didn't he, on the Deep Purple tour? First thing he said, is Ian around anywhere? And the next thing you know, he appears. He goes, is Deano around? I said, yeah. He goes, can I borrow your ironing board? He's in his socks. He wants to do some ironing. And he took our ironing board, because at that level, you get your own ironing board backstage, of course, not just a kettle. And he took off our ironing board and off he went. I said, yeah, I'll look out for Dean and send him in.
Yeah, he loves ironing. Karen can tell you that. On the American tour we done, she done a wardrobe for us and a bit of merch. And she'd go and do his cleaning and stuff, like, well, drop it off, go and pick it up. And he always insisted on ironing. Does anyone want anything ironed? Do you want your shirts ironed? Didn't he, Cal?
Yes, she is here.
Yeah.
Hello.
Not hearing that kettle go very much, though.
No.
Yeah, he likes to chill out naked, does Ian.
So you better expand on this, because the listeners are going to hear somebody in the distance and not really know.
That's
so
Kaz.
What Kaz is saying is that he likes to hang out and chill out naked. And did she walk in on him?
Did you walk in on him a couple of times? No. He saved her that one.
Yeah. I bet she did.
When you think about it as well, the way things have changed. I mean, we've just done together. You guys have done the first half of the Kickstart the Sun tour. I'm trying to picture a lot of the venues that you did, with the exception of sort of Milton Keynes, the Stables, and the Wimborne Theatre, the Tivoli Theatre in Wimborne. There weren't that many places on that tour that you could have put an ironing board up in the dressing room. If you think about it, it's like things are a lot different these days, aren't they?
Oh,
Yes.
when Ian used to tour Russia and all that, they used to take out their own washing machines. They used to take out their own, I think, pool table or table tennis table. I know when we toured with Bryan Adams, he always had his table tennis table out backstage. I mean, who would think of going on tour?
Table tennis
Can we have a
table.
couple of Pac-Man machines? We got these pinballs. But no,
A selection of table tennis bats, bobbly and smooth, with the foam, I think one's good for backspin, or is it topspin? I can't remember.
I've still got my one I had when I was about 13 upstairs. My mum and
Is
dad
it a
bought-
Steiger?
It's don't know, but it's the
It'd be
old
perished
soft
now.
pancake.
That's it.
No, it ain't. I can go and show you. It's in great nick.
I had it was 5 wood sandwich, then I had foam, and then one side was like smooth red, rubber,
Yeah.
then the other side was bobbly, and it's
Yeah.
like, so if you're doing that kind of thing.
The funny thing is, I was just checking something technically here, so I have no
And he ain't
idea what you're
recorded
talking
none of
about.
it.
here.
Yeah.
He's
play-
gone. Yeah.
I've recorded all of it, but I don't know what you're talking about. You're talking about like hot water bottle or something.
No, the table
No,
tennis
table
bat.
tennis bats.
Oh yes, okay. Yeah.
Then you got your different star balls as well, ping pong balls, because the more stars was a better ball.
Yeah, if you ever want to know where all the table tennis bats are, they're all in belly lockers in motorhomes. Basically, everybody goes like, "Oh, we're going on holiday. We better have something." So they throw it in a belly locker in the motorhome. About 4 years later, they're open. It's still in the wrapper, isn't it?
Never did use that.
No.
Swing ball.
Yeah.
Remember swing ball from the 70s?
Oh, I could never
still
get
got
that.
one.
I could never get that thing
Bollocks.
going.
Bollocks.
Go like that and just.
It used to wobble, then it never went round the thing properly. You had to get it absolutely flush on so it's like that. Anything down that way, it just used to buckle up. Pathetic.
But there's a
Worst holiday ever with a swing ball.
There's a funny thing actually, sort of looking at sort of current affairs kind of thing. There's everything that's new is a great threat to mankind, isn't it? Everything, absolutely anything that's
It
new.
is. It is for me.
So I worked with drones for a little while, and people would say they're the root of all evil. They're going to kill the world or whatever. Then the pandemic came along, everybody forgot about it. Nobody's died. No aeroplanes have dropped out of the sky. Nothing. If you go backwards, swing ball. I remember everyone was like, they should ban that because it could wrap round your neck. And eventually they did put that bit of plastic on, didn't they, at the end?
That's
remember?
right, they did, yeah.
Just so that it couldn't bend at the end. Just
Yeah,
because
yeah.
everyone was like, oh, there's going to be thousands of people will die at the hands of swing ball. Clackers, do you remember them?
Oh, do
Oh,
I?
now clackers. Now you're going. See, we used to use clackers in the Supersonic show, and we had some genuine 70s clackers that cost a lot of money. Now you won't get them cheap, and we had them nicked at Dartford. Some girl pissed up. She ran off them because we used to leave them hanging over the bass player's mic stand, and he would do it in the show. But of course he couldn't do it. He couldn't get him up and over, whereas I could. Kaz can as well. It's a girl's thing, that's why I can do it.
Right, I've got a story about clackers.
This is
And
going nowhere.
also, do you remember the long tubes?
Oh, yeah.
The big long whirly tube. I know the guy that brought them into the country.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, Giz. He used to own a studio in Surrey called House in the Woods.
Oh, right, yeah, I know that.
Giz van der Kloot. And
He bought in clackers.
he was in Europe, and they came out there, like with we used to call them Knackers or something like that.
Yeah.
Well, it's called clackers, I think it was.
Something like
He
that,
thought,
wasn't it? Yeah.
God, he said, I'm going to ship some of them. And he brought over something like 500,000 of them.
Really?
And also the whirly thing he saw in Europe, and he bought a big, massive job lot and then shipped them over to England. He said he made a fortune of it.
Well, clackers were banned in our school because kids were racking their knuckles with them. Well, they were proper like snooker ball.
Yeah.
And also,
density.
there was a big issue about them
The
smacking
wrists.
on your wrists.
Yeah, that's it. Well, when we used to use them in the show, if you got it wrong and they twirled round, they used to wrap your knuckles. We got it a few times.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I've got
And
that
what
many
happens,
times.
of course, with all the political correctness of today, they introduce them. You go on eBay, clackers. Yeah, there's loads for sale. They're that big, and they're as heavy as a ping pong ball.
Oh,
You
yeah.
They're absolute bollocks.
No, yeah, no,
What?
you had got to have a big
bollocks.
chunk of
Now these
weight.
are the original ones are about that big. They're as solid as a billiard ball.
Yeah, like snooker ball, made of the same
Proper
stuff.
twine with a proper. The end was like a paddle was about that long, and you could get a right go on.
And
them.
when you got it wrong, it didn't half. I mean, it did hurt your wrist, but
yeah.
that was half
We did that.
the great thing about it, wasn't it?
We've got footage somewhere of us doing it on stage because part of our gag was that Gary could never do it and he'd throw them off and the crowd would boo him. And then Jane would walk on from the side of the stage. We made these giant clackers out of foam these two balls like that with a skipping rope and literally a drumstick for the handle, and she'd come on like going dun 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 dun, going, it's all about the size, boys. And that was the gag. We never worked in that theatre again afterwards, of course.
No, and these are stories of rock and roll. You know, these are the backbone.
Clackers,
of
it's
rock and roll.
70s though. If you're going to talk about clackers and 70s, I'm in, aren't I? So.
I'll tell you one thing about the 70s. Talking of things that everybody was shit scared of and thought that they was going to end the world. Skateboards. Like now, every
skateboards.
middle class kid now walks around with a skateboard under their arm, and it's the thing that the parents buy them for Christmas. Back in the day, I remember I fell off I actually skateboarded off a railway platform and broke my arm. But I couldn't. I had to lie because at school, if you broke your arm, you know, remember the 70s was the kind of the era where things like getting whacked with a cane and stuff like that was going out. But the PE department was the last department to have any political correctness. It was still like you got whacked.
Slipper was a regular.
If you turned up without any kit, you had to do it in your underpants. It was the Department of Humiliation, basically, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But we
the DOH.
If you were in the footy team or in any teams, and you would get kicked out if they knew you'd injured yourself on a skateboard.
Oh, definitely.
And it was like, really?
Yeah, I remember that.
First time I had to go on one, I came off it. I hurt myself, and I've never been on another one since.
I loved it. Oh, talk to me about skateboards. Oh, I'm there all day talking about Hobie decks and Pacer decks and all that kind of stuff.
If anybody's watching this,
651 trucks,
that's been to see our VIP shows, they know what my bladder's like.
Oh, you're going to go for one?
I've got to go and have a pish.
Okay. It's all right, well, the good news is he's still got his. Oh, you just take that. You have to take that with you. We can hear you as well.
Oh no! I'm going to do a big fart.
Right, I'm going to hit stop on everything. Don't worry, we're not recording.